So let's talk about Black women best, right? This is something that I actually did not come up with. So I want to go ahead and clarify that really quick. But I have sort of been passed on the baton since Janelle Jones, who is actually the coiner of this phrase, is currently the first Black woman chief economist of the Department of Labor. So she describes her framework as the following: Black women best is an economic principle that argues if Black women, who since our nation's founding have been among the most excluded and exploited by the rules that structure our society, can one day thrive in the economy, then it must finally be working for everyone. And if you think about that, that seems really intuitive, right? If you aim policies, workplace or economic policies, or even broader than that, at the group that is worse off, then literally everybody else will benefit. And one way that I love to think about this is the following: the best outcome for Black women is an even better outcome for everyone else. So thinking about that, as you're thinking about remote work policies, as you're thinking about workplace culture, it's really going to ground not just the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that you might be sort of doing with respect to outreach or internally, but also thinking about just the company-wide policies, right? Are the groups that are usually worse off in the workplace, as we showed before with the leanin.org statistics, are they better off? If they're better off, then we know everybody else who is better off is doing well as well, excuse me. So let's go in and talk a little bit about the solutions, right? I think that a lot of times when I'm talking to organizations, I really want people to sort of reflect, because a lot of times people are like, well, that problem's over there. I don't really want to deal with that, right? But the truth is, a lot of times the solutions are actually things that come out of reflection, self-reflection as an organization or as a company. So first and foremost, I think that, given what happened last year with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, taking the temperature of your workplace is of the utmost importance, right? Consider past reviews by Black and Brown employees. This is something that, we'll kind of talk to about with respect to the phases that I'm going to suggest later on in this presentation. But I think the key to this is just saying less and listening more, right? Is your organizational culture conducive for Black women and people of color more broadly? Is there a documented history of discomfort? You have the data. I know this because I worked in HR metrics and analytics right before grad school. I know that data is available, right? So look at the data. What is the data telling you about people's experiences, both anecdotally as well as in terms of performance reviews, et cetera? Where are the gaps in engagement, right? Pay, reviews, all of these different attributes of the workplace actually contribute to the culture of the workplace, be it in person or remote. I want to go ahead and say something as well. This is a fact. It's really hard to solve a problem you do not understand, right? I think this is something we all know. But that means that with respect to thinking about remote work, you need to think about where Black women and, more importantly, marginalized groups sit in the decisions around the company, right? So this means promoting, hiring, retaining Black women. And you can't retain Black women, again, if the workplace culture isn't conducive for Black women and for groups that are also part of the marginalized folks, right? So thinking about this with respect to who can inform company-wide decisions around work structure, right? Remote work, or the decisions around remote work, might be sitting in HR, but ultimately the folks who sign off are managers, senior VPs, et cetera. Where are the Black women? Where are the marginalized people amongst those decision makers? That is what we sort of motivated before with the data in terms of who's coming in and even who makes it to the top, right? Black women can and should inform more than diversity, equity, and inclusion. So one thing that I've noticed as well is that a lot of HR sort of parts of companies are filled with Black women, maybe at the lower levels, right? I think Nick talked about how some of the lower income individuals working within an organization are disproportionately from Black and Brown backgrounds, right? These are the individuals who can inform more than just whether or not their identity fits within the workplace, right? So that means that, going back to our second point, how are Black women informing company-wide decisions around work structures? How are marginalized people involved in the decision-making process? What reports are we citing from and implementing solutions from? Are we addressing concerns or creating an employee resource group, right? I know there's a lot of employee resource groups within corporate structures for sure, but how effective are those groups in your actual corporate structure, right? Are you just having an employee resource group for the Black people so the Black people can be Black over there? Or are they actually implementing or helping you frame solutions that can actually improve their experiences and subsequently the experiences of others?